Action.
Hello and welcome to Filmmakers Focus. I'm Doc Kennedy. This week's special guest is filmmaker, screenwriter. He's a jack of all trades, Matt Croyle. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Doc. Thanks for having me on.
Well, why don't you give us a little rundown of what you're all about, man?
Well, I guess the majority of my adult life, I've been about telling stories and finding, as many different ways and avenues as I can to do that, whether that be through, stage work or plays or even writing music to directing a feature film. I directed web series. And so, I mean, it's a weird thing to be, I guess, an individual who feels the need to connect with as many people as possible. I don't know what that says about my psyche, but yeah, that's pretty much me in a nutshell.
That I agree 100% because I feel like I cannot connect with enough people. Everyone that I meet, I feel like is my superior in one way or another. And that includes the homeless guy up the street or the billionaire up the street.
Connecting with people can be a difficult task from time to time. And so it's nice to be able to take some part of yourself, some intrinsic aspect of yourself that maybe you deem important or worthwhile, and you put it out to an audience, regardless of size, and have them somehow find a way to grasp onto it, to understand it a little bit. And I think that's kind of what we do as artists.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It is all about putting ourselves out there. And I know that there's a lot of introverts that are involved in the arts, especially in the filmmaking community. You either have the people that they want to be in front of the camera, or the people that are like, no way, I want to be behind it, telling the story that way.
Although surprisingly enough, you will have some actors that if they are not in front of a camera, they are completely 180 degrees different. They
for sure.
turn it completely off and you don't even know who they are at all. So,
yeah.
But no, I agree with you 100%.
Well, to me, that's because that's their opportunity to be someone else.
I agree.
And I understand that mentality. I love being in front of the camera. I have a sickness that way. I have to be on stage, and I did grow up on stage, so yeah, I know that feeling. I think it was weird though because somewhere like in, I think my late 20s, maybe when I turned about 30 years old, I started developing this strange fear of large audiences. Now. And I don't know why. Maybe it was just stuff from my past or whatever. And so I was always uncomfortable then in front of a large audience live. Now, if you put me in front of a camera and there's no live audience there to watch me, and maybe there's a small crew or some other actors, I'm absolutely fine. But so yeah, that's just my end of it as far as acting goes. I did appear in my feature that's out. So awesome.
In a supporting role.
Well, why don't you tell us a little bit of some of the projects that you've taken on? Because you've done web series, you've done features. What have you really learned going through all this stuff?
It was nice to be able to be on set early, as like an extra and stuff like that on like major studio productions, because you got to see the wheels turning on such a grand scale. Awesome. And in a way, as an independent filmmaker, to have that experience and see how that works, you can tell when it goes to your own projects, you can tell that what you need to actually make things run and what doesn't need to be there. Mm-hmm. What you can get done without actually having every single wheel that you see on a major Hollywood studio production going. And it's in a way it's cutting corners, but in a way it's streamlining the process, which is really cool. So I think, the first thing that really, I went out to LA for the first time since I was a kid in 2012, and I took my web series Monster out there, and it's a 6-parter, and we ended up doing an epilogue episode of it like a year and a half later on, after my father had passed away and I needed an outlet somehow to say something about him. So I figured what other what other way than to just utilize something that that already exists. So we did an epilogue episode. But we took that out and screened it in Los Angeles, and it was nice to go out there, on a professional level and meet, fellow creators that normally I don't get to meet, where I'm at. I'm in northwestern Pennsylvania. I'm halfway between Pittsburgh and Erie, and Cleveland's, a couple hours away. New York's only about 5. So we're centralized in a pretty nice area, but we are in rural Pennsylvania. So it is kind of a drive to get places, and we don't have Pittsburgh's kind of a little bit more booming these days as far as production goes. So it's nice to be able to get down there. I have some friends that live and work down there in the industry, but
okay.
It was nice to go to LA because it's really that's the hub, LA or New York, but mostly Los Angeles. And to have something like my little web series that it didn't cost me anything. I sat in front of a camera. I acted in it. I wrote it. I sat in front of a camera in black and white and did these 10-minute episodes. Wow. And for people to respond to it the way that they did, it was given outstanding achievement in a mockumentary series in cinematography. Awesome. for cinematography, excuse me. And it was recognized for that. And so, which was the last thing that I thought it would actually be recognized for. But it's nice to have something, that I shot by myself on a tiny, tiny scale, get accepted, to out in Los Angeles to screen out there. And so we took it out there and screened 2 episodes of it, and people seem to dig it. So
that's awesome.
It was nice to be able to connect with some people that way. So that was Monster.
Well, let me ask you real quick. So
yeah, go ahead.
Since we can't,
I like to go off on tangents, so I do apologize.
Hey, that's great. I just want to try to visualize this myself because you said that you wrote, shot, and starred in. So the idea of you hitting record, jumping in front of the camera. So I have this right. That's exactly what happened.
That is exactly what happened. Yeah.
That's awesome.
It was pretty much it was me and my cat, actually. Her name is Donk. She makes a couple appearances, and I believe my son makes a brief appearance in it, as when he was younger. Yes. But yeah, that's pretty much what it was.
Well, Matt, you're killing our excuses.
Well, that's the thing. I think we try to invent them for ourselves, because maybe we feel some kind of inadequacy of maybe we're not good enough to do something, but the thing is, I guess what's good enough is subjective anyway.
Yeah.
And I think that as long as we're able to put, as much as we can into something, then it should be good enough, at least to us. And that's what matters.
Yeah, for sure. So once you had that all in the can, did you have a marketing plan in place?
Now, Monster, we did not. Monster, it was kind of like my trial run for getting set up to shoot my feature film. It was just me getting a feel of sound, of editing sound, of just editing scenes in general. And it was weird because I actually played 2 versions of myself that interact with each other. So I actually had to film myself saying lines to nobody multiple times and then try to intercut the scene to where the dialogue is where I'm actually speaking with myself and it's overlapping and it's all this crazy stuff. So, so it was more of a trial run. It was a way for me to kind of use, the software I was using at the time and try to really just figure out things that I didn't really know about very much, like the sound editing and scoring aspect of it, because we licensed Moby through Moby Gratis.
Wow.
And if it's funny, if you watch the next 3 days with Russell Crowe, you hear a lot of the same songs in that film that that are in my tiny little no budget web series.
How did this then lead into you making a feature?
Okay. Well, I'd always wanted to do the feature. And I think everything that I do is some kind of outlet for myself. And I write a lot about loss. And I was going through Monster in itself is my way of dramatically enhancing or de-hancing actual events that happened in my real life. I went through some loss, and I knew that it was a point in my life where, I said, okay, I got to practice with this thing now. If I don't shoot this feature, I'm never going to shoot it. Mm-hmm. And so we started shooting in 2012, the summer of 2012. And it took us 2.5 years to shoot it, edit it, and put it out to the world. Okay. And like I said, Monster was my kind of trial run for the technical aspects of it, because I did most of that, the feature myself as well. And it's a 79-minute feature. It's not very long. It's 80 minutes. And it's called Potential Inertia. And it is available on VHX if anybody wants to go check it out. Awesome. They can go to VHX and Google that. But that's kind of what that was. It was me deciding. I felt like there's points in your life where you feel like you do more for a lot of other people than you do for yourself. Yeah. And I was getting to the point where I'm in my mid-30s and I'm thinking, man, if I don't do it now, I'm never going to do it. Yeah. So we opened up funding. We did a couple funding runs, or I guess, what are they?
Like crowdsourcing?
Yeah, crowdsourcing. We did a couple campaigns on Indiegogo just to kind of get some gear, straight up to explain to people, what's the kind of gear we needed. And I was gifted a camera by my father, which is just a low-end Nikon DSLR. Okay. And we were able to raise enough money to get some sound equipment. I think we recorded on like a Tascam DR100 Mark II, which is not a very expensive field recorder, but the sound quality is absolutely unbelievable.
That's great. We record this podcast with a Tascam DR40. It's been one of my best friends.
They are pretty amazing pieces of technology. I will. That's my shout out to Tascam. So if they want to help me out with anything,
or if they want to sponsor the podcast, we're cool.
Yeah, they can always do that. Always do that. That would be very awesome. So anyway, I decided to shoot this thing, and I did, and a lot of we had some producers that came on board through the crowdfunding aspect of things that wanted to actually physically be involved. Awesome. in the production of the film, and I had absolutely no problem with that, because we had the different levels, and they wanted to be here, and they're local people, so I thought, what, why not? You're in the state, you're in the region, come up whenever you want, come on set whenever you want, help out whenever you want. And we were looking at the way that the crowdfunding was going, and I looked at the model that Indiegogo had at the time and Kickstarter had at the time, and they have these models set up that are time specific. Yeah. And while I understand, the importance of in theory, the importance of having an urgency to raise a goal, or you don't get any money, or that kind of thing, usually, it helps in raising funds to get your project made if people believe in it. But I looked at that and I thought, you know what? We're going to shoot this thing anyway. Yeah. And I decided, I took it upon myself to open up a website, register a website, open up a website for the film, to crowdfund for the film. And I kept it open throughout production. So as we were shooting the movie and keeping people updated on how the movie was going, we were still asking for funds. So over 2.5 years, people, delivered funds to us, and it was an overall grand total of like $10,000 over 2 years. Oh, that's super. But it didn't come all at once. Yeah. But it was enough to get the film made, and we had backers from, I believe, 12 or 13 different countries around the world. Oh, super. Which was pretty amazing. We had over 300 backers in all over the course of two and a half years, and if it wasn't for those people believing in what we were doing the whole time, we wouldn't have got the picture made. Yeah. And props to people believing in something that you do, because a lot of times you don't get that. Yeah. And I think a lot of that does too as well, like what you were saying earlier about when you and I were talking about marketing yourself and things like that. I think it's important that you do, as an independent artist, talk to people about what you're doing on a daily basis. And it might it might be weird, or you might think that you're annoying people, and maybe you are annoying people. But they'll tell you if you are.
Oh yeah, I think nowadays they're very open with that.
Yeah, and I think as long as you're transparent with if you have an established audience, if you're transparent with them, and if you don't have an established audience, as long as you're transparent with what the money's going towards, how it's being utilized, people will back your stuff if you're straight up with them, and it's really kind of nice.
I love that. I love that you were willing to try something new, because you're the first one that I've talked to that's done a crowdfunding campaign throughout the duration of the project, which took over 2 years. And not doing the 2 weeks to a month type campaign where you're really hounding it. I really like that idea, because the concept of doing the campaign, and I know this from talking with other filmmakers. I haven't done any crowdfunding myself, but talking with other filmmakers that have, they're working every day to make sure, that's
there's a distinct schedule just laid out. If you go on to Indiegogo, they give you a distinct schedule. Like, this is the best way to do it. And you have to follow that to a T to make sure that you hit your goal. I mean, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. And I never liked that idea of having to basically take on a second job to try to bring in funds when you're not positive it's going to happen. The way that you did it was just allowing that to come as people could. And allowing them to have the flexibility, that's great. I love that. So I think both options are great. Whatever works best for you in your particular project. But that's super, Matt.
Thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Yeah. So once you got your feature wrapped, what was your next step from there?
Our feature, we immediately, I had looked around as far as distribution options went. Obviously, we didn't have any kind of, nobody, we're way outside of the studio system. Nobody even knows this movie's being made, which is insanely fun at the same time, because you're just like, I have this movie and you don't know I have it. And so, I figured I would release it video on demand using a company called VHX, who is out of Brooklyn. And now VHX is a pretty awesome group of people. They're very small, and they go on the revenue split with you, and like a 50 cents per transaction or something like that, plus like a tiny percentage or something.
So is this like a rental?
Yeah, well, you can do everything on it. You can do video on demand rental for a specific amount of days. You can buy a digital download of it. They don't do any kind of fulfillment for like DVDs or anything like that. So you obviously have to go through somebody like Amazon or something, some way to fulfill some DVD sales. But I've yet to do that with the film, and it came out in 2014. So I haven't even sold DVDs of it yet, which is kind of cool.
Yeah.
We settled on VHX. So it was kind of crazy. I wanted to release it on the day after Christmas. I wanted, but we had to wait an extra day because there were some upload issues on my end. But we got it out December 27th of 2014. And it's all a matter of staying with it. And I still, every day I'm plugging it online. Because once, as an indie artist, as an indie filmmaker, you're going to have new projects to work on. But the thing is, that is still your movie. And if you give up promoting it, and then it's never going to do anything. It will die. People will see it when it first comes out, and they'll rent it and think it's cool. And then if nobody talks about it, it goes away. It's like that with any film.
Sure. Well, it'd be like a salesman of anything, just not promoting their product.
Right. Exactly.
Makes no sense.
So I think marketing is very key in the long run, and I'm not talking just in over 6 months. I'm talking years of staying with your stuff, because it's ultimately your baby anyway, and you need to watch it grow and go out into the world.
Well, what do you got lined up for the next year, Matt?
The next year, I think I do have a music video shoot next week. I'm pretty sure of that. Right. That's just a local band, which is pretty cool. But it's a paycheck, and that's the important stuff
for sure.
But once again, you and I were discussing earlier, I am currently shooting with my production organization. We're called One Fish Media, we rebranded from One Fish Films because I didn't want to stay specifically with film. That's another one of those things where it was just like, just making movies. I don't want it to be just making movies because I'm kind of multifaceted, or at least I like to think I am. I think I'm good at a lot of things, but not like really great at one thing, if that makes sense.
Oh, for sure.
But we are shooting an independent television pilot called Circle Michigan, and it's using the same type of camera. It's a little higher end DSLR. We're shooting some stuff low end. We're using the camera that we used on the film, but we applied and did some crowdfunding through Hatch Fund, and I don't know if you're familiar with Hatch Fund or not. They're a pretty exclusive crowdfunding thing, and they're a nonprofit organization, and you have to apply as an artist in order to be accepted into their crowdfunding platform. And they literally assign you, a project manager that works with you in order to come up with different ways to hit your goal, whatever your target goal is, and then they give you like an extended goal if you hit that. So we were able to hit our target goal. Now, we did $10,000 raised for the feature film, and I thought to myself, there's no way I'm going to raise 10 grand again in this short amount of time. So I just, we were able to raise $2,500 to shoot the pilot with.
Oh, great. Which
is way more than they shot It's Always Sunny pilot with. The original It's Always Sunny pilot. That was $200. But it looks good so far, and I'm really proud of it. And I think it's my most mature work to date. Great. It's an hour long drama, and we'd like to get it in front of hopefully we're going to submit to some independent television festivals. New York Independent Television Festival is one that we would love to get into, and get it in front of some eyes and see what happens.
Well, you're staying busy, and I love that about what you're doing is you've always got one project going, and you're doing stuff that's paying the bills. So keep doing what you're doing, bro. You're getting there.
Thanks, man.
Well, Matt, this has been awesome. So how can people get in touch with you?
I am on Twitter. It's at Matt Croyle on Twitter. Instagram is at Matt Croyle Official on Instagram. So yeah, if anybody wants to get in touch with me, just to bullcrap about stuff, to talk about, if they have any questions about their stuff or any suggestions for me, like I love talking shop all the time. Like that's my thing.
Awesome. Well, we'll have links to all that in the show notes, and we'll just say goodbye. Thank you again, Matt.
All right, thank you, Doc. I really appreciate it, man.